Hello and welcome to the Flory Models Friday Roundup Show. Here we are with you on the 1st of April 2022. I can't believe we're literally a quarter of the way through the year already. This year is absolutely flying. Anyway, really busy week this week with these two, so let's get on with it. So started on Monday. As you can see, part 10 of the Hornet build went up this one. So we were talking about last minute decals onto this one. So we did the nozzles. So we're putting those ceramic plates down into the nozzles and sections like that. And then obviously we're working on the gear, and obviously being usual, as you can see, the snippers are out and we're having to cut the gear because the gear was way too wide. So we had to make some authorizations on that one. And then it was into the weathering. So first stage of the weathering, basically dark dirt wash right the way over everything, and as you can see, just slap it down everywhere, let it totally dry off, and then we just sort of bringing it off as well. So we're just showing you there how the pigment works. So anyway, damp cloth right the way over it, just basically trying to leave not much on. This is a cag bird after all, so consequently what we're trying to do is keep it quite clean. Going to do minimal sort of touch-ups and things like that with it. So we wanted to get most of the wash off in this case. So as you can see, nice clean. So great for panel lines and leaving just a little bit of texture on it as we were making our way through, like that one. So there you can see half and half done. So half on this side with the wash sort of sat there, and then half with it all cleaned off. So looking pretty good. And then obviously taking it right the way off. So it's leaving us with our sort of first stage of the weathering. So it's brought out all the panel line details, all the riveting details, raised and recessed as well. So that's all ready. So then what we can do is get in there with oils and go through the process of that one on there. So you can see very nicely done there. Then we were in with the oil, so we're doing things with the gear. Don't mention the gear, that's on next week's show. You'll get that part on Monday. But anyway, lots of things. And then we're obviously looking at stippling effects. So this is using a very thin oil wash right the way over everything. And then you sort of let it dry to get to a satin finish, and then we stippled it to go through on that one. So basically that was getting us up to there. So that is part 10 of the actual Hornet up there. And we'll have a look at a little bit more of that in a minute. Tuesday, it was the Tuesday show. So we went back to doing the sort of live format with me and Matt. I was also carrying on working at the same time, so whilst we were having a good old chat with you guys and things like that, we were also showing how to do sort of weathering and various bits and pieces. So I was coming in with, if I zoom this along a little bit, with oils. So we started to go through. So again, they're pretty much same ways, different styles of doing it. Obviously one in a camo, one is just grey, Second World War versus modern, but the actual theories behind it all is pretty much the same. So same type of thing. So down in here what we're doing is coming along with neat oils and putting them on after it had an oil wash right over it, which we'll talk about in a moment. So anyway, we were showing this as we were doing our shows. Again, just give you the heads up, things are changing. We're having a bit of a reformat and a change around and everything else from sort of April onwards with the videos and things, how we're going to be doing, producing and stuff. We're going to be hopefully doing more quality over quantity, shall we say, because we know how difficult it is to keep up with everything. So anyway, well, that was the sort of Phil and Matt show, our little sort of podcast, if you like. So we're answering your questions, talking about what was going on and everything else like that. PM show was on Wednesday morning. We record this one, so I know some people post up questions and various bits and pieces, but obviously we record this around about sort of 9:30 in the morning before the sort of work day gets going, and then obviously we're answering your questions. So make sure if you are going to ask us any questions that you want to hear about in the show, that obviously you get those posted up nice and early so we can have a look at them before we go live. All right. So anyway, that one went up with you. Again, talking everything, if you can imagine, answering lots of your questions, usual topics, anything that's sort of going on in the hobby at the moment, things like that. That's our PM show, which is obviously the Wednesday show. Last night was the live show, so usual fun and giggles and all the rest of it, answering your questions. Great topics. We blame Nathan for all these latest topics, and what you get out of the hobby and what is the best thing about the actual hobby we were talking about last night as well as obviously seeing what the team has been up to this week. So you can see that one up as well. So that is up for you to go and see. And that brings us up to pretty much where we are today with the part 11, because they're all parts 11s at the moment, on the 24 scale Hurricane. So this is the trumpeter kit. And in this one, again, it's following along. So we're sort of into weathering season with both of them. And as you can see down in here, this one had the weathering wash. And then obviously we went along with oils. And I do love my oils, as you probably know. And again, I was sort of explaining here of the sort of funny effect that really works very nicely with oils with the clay wash. So you put down the clay wash, the Flory Models clay wash, and that gives you your big areas. So that gives you your grime, your panel lines, raised and recessed details show up and everything else. But when you put a very thin, almost filter right the way over everything, it automatically gets absorbed by the clay and gives you some really nice features. So you can see down in here on the bottom of this aileron how it naturally goes into areas, but also it sort of naturally sort of gets drawn away from the centers of panels, and it gives a sort of a polished area in the middle as well. So it's quite handy with that one. And as you can see, as it dries back, you get more grime around these areas, and then it sort of stays clean in the middle, which is a nice little thing. It's one of those, it makes it look fancy, but it's not. It's doing it all on its own. A little bit more heavy weathering around these central areas and things like that. And again, I was explaining on this one how I like my models to tell a story. So it's almost like I'm imagining what would happen. So for this particular one, we was going to say it had a radiator leak, a little bit of a coolant problem at some point. Obviously, it's never been cleaned off, and it's just going to hang in there. So then we're going to come along with neat oils for this effect. So what we're doing, we put some little browns dots around here, a little bit of the orangey colours as well down in here, and then obviously what we're planning on doing is making a big old horrible mess coming out from the actual radiator section as well. And again, same with the actual gun empties ports as they fall out from the ejecting shells. So as you can see, then we start to blend it all in and bring it right the way in, and it's just a blending process of going right the way through in here. So again, we then temporarily put things like the flaps in place so we can make the weathering all come through right the way, picking out little riveting and sort of, you know, latch heads that are going to catch weathering because of where they are, and then obviously doing exactly the same thing across the very top of the model as well. So again, it's one of those ones where, you know, you've got different sections of it, different ways of doing it, but that's my favorite one. So that's sort of, you know, with you with there on part 11. So that is up with you right now. Obviously both of these parts, it's sort of, you know, we've run these in tandem right the way through. Again, you know, as we know, if you've seen any of the shows this week, you'll know I've been having a complete nightmare with the Hornet. It never fails to bite me, for want of a better word. So now we've had to come along and we've actually put in an acrylic rod underneath it because the gear cannot take the weight. It can, but not for very long. So consequently now I feel confident putting it down because the gear has now taken the weight. That rod in there, it's a 10mm rod. You can hardly see it, especially like angles you're looking at it, things like that. Now it's only if you get underneath it that you can actually see that rod. But what it's done is take the weight off of that gear, because what happened was, as I thought and I suspected was going to happen, it cannot take the weight purely because the load bearing point is right at the very front. The wheel is very much behind it, so it's pivoting and it's pushing up, and then it just sheared on one side. So that put us back a little bit. We had a couple of hours of fun putting that right and trying to get all those sorted. But as you can see, she is coming together very, very nicely. So she's done underneath here, and obviously she's done on the top here. I can get hold of her. So she's coming along. We've just done a little bit of post shading on this one this morning, just finishing off those areas, and generally she's looking very much the part now. So next week could be one of the final parts. We've got to do final oils on this one. This is the heavy stuff, somewhat like we did with the staining work on the actual Hurricane. So we're going to be going through the motions of getting that one finished, and obviously we've got to arm it, and then we just got a few little details, again, aerials, pitos, things like that to go onto this one to finish her off. I'm not going to lie, I'm glad to see the back of it. It's one of those one model kits that it just fought me right the way through, and because of that, it just, I don't know, you can't really get into it. I'm looking forward to getting it done. I'm enjoying, if you want the honest opinion, of beating it. And that's the thing with that kit. Nothing's straight with it, nothing's correct with it, and it needs a lot of work. But it's one of those which you can look back on it and say, do you know what? It turned out nice. And from my point of view, from here I am like a foot away from it, you know, or a sort of half meter, it looks really, really nice, and it's got some fantastic detail as well. So it's just a shame that the kit has been badly let down, I think, in the final design stages, where test shots, nobody cared about what happened with the test shots as far as I'm concerned. So it looks like it was a case of, oh well, that will do, we'll just release it, when it shouldn't have been released. It's got too many faults that needed fixing. It could have been a great kit, but unfortunately it's always going to get a C- from me. Anyway, one that I do love is this little guy. So as you can see, we've got the oils underneath. She's a dirty bird because that's what she is. It's a Polish Squadron 1, so it's a late Hurricane Mark II-C coming together. And for this one, she's pretty much finished as well. All we've got to do is go around with the engine now. So you might remember that we've deliberately cut the top off of this and everything else. We've got all the parts which are just down in here. So we've got all these panels and things to go on this one. They all fit onto it, so if we wanted to, we could close it up, but I'm going to have it open. So what we need to do is just detail it a little bit more. So we're going to come in now and put some wiring down into there, a little bit of posing work, you know, a little bit of piping, things like that, just to liven that engine up to make it onto that next level. Because again, you've got the basics of the engine, it looks sort of fine, but it needs a little bit more detailing there as well. So that's exactly what we'll do. As for the rest of it, it's fantastic. The guns are in, they're aftermarket as well, so it's actually really made it nice. And whilst that's got very weak undercarriage, I know a lot of people have asked me about the undercarriage on this. It's solid, it's rock solid the way that is. So yeah, I must admit, it's one of those ones which has been an absolute joy to work on. Thoroughly enjoyed it. It's an older kit. It's a, you know, pretty much getting as a modern day classic, but it's actually been a lot of fun. And okay, the details are probably overdone and it's this, that and the other, but really enjoyed it. Brand new kit. Hated every minute of it. No, not hated every minute, but definitely haven't enjoyed it as much as I thought I would do. Anyway, these two will be finished off next week, so they'll be done, and then we're making our way on with our next project, which is something a little bit more hopefully straightforward. So we're working on, I would have got it, we've got no room here. This is the Great Wall Hobbies 148 scale F15E. We're doing the Strike Eagle full modern spec, so that one will be a nice one to work on as well. I'm going to do that one as a standalone for a couple of weeks, and then I'll bring on the next model in behind it as we're making our way through with that one. So yeah, busy times ahead, but a good month right the way through. One thing I do have to mention, sorry, there's a loud noise outside. One thing I do have to mention is the merchandise. The merchandise will be up on the site for members to buy on Monday. It's just that I need to completely redo the site because of VATs and things like that, and I'm not going to have enough time to do it today. I know I promised everybody I would. As a lot of you know, I've got Matt coming down here from PM Models to stay with us for the weekend, so I'm not going to get a lot of time to be actually working on the site like I normally do. But it will be up with you on Monday. That's not a problem, all right? Speaking of Matt and the PM store, don't forget on Tuesday, which is going to be April the 5th at 7 o'clock, we've got our next live auction. So this is purely for members. So unfortunately, guys, if you're not a member, you won't be able to see this one. But again, for all members, if you want to put any pre-bids onto these, obviously you can. You can go ahead and get those all put in bids. And as you can see, this is some of the lots we've got coming up there. This is all PM stock. It's not like members stock or anything else like that. This is all from the actual warehouse that Matt's got some bits around. There is some review stuff in this as well. So, you know, but it is marked up as well. We've got a couple in there. I think I've got damaged boxes, and then the others are review ones. But it will say in the little description. So where it says what lot it is and everything else like that, it will be down in there. So don't forget, you can put a pre-bid on this already. So if you get hold of Andy and then obviously tell him how much you'd like to bid up to, what he'll do is bid on your behalf when we're doing it live on Tuesday night. All right. So obviously, if you wanted to bid up to £30, he will start the bidding as normally where we start about £5 or £10 onto it, and he will do sort of the usual sort of, you know, increments going up on your behalf. All right. So that's how that works. Usual thing for if you've got two of you who have put in pre-bids for the same amount, the one that we accepted first, the one who was sent to us first, will be the one that will win. All right, straightforward as that. Don't forget, full terms and conditions are at the top of this thread, so you can go off and see that one, and it'll talk about postage costs and all the things that go along with it as well. And again, special ones like that one there, there's only £1 of one in there. Instead of that I'm going to bid on myself. I think I'm going to have a go at the old X-Wings. That's a nice one. I've done one of those already. But yes, so some really nice stuff down in there. And then obviously just coming up in a moment is some of the actual review kits that I've done recently as well. So if you want to go off and see the reviews of some of these kits, then obviously just pop over to the actual Flory Models site and click on the review section. I will just stop it there. So this is a little bit of a thing. This is Buster. You might remember my old Buster that I've been torturing for the last 10 years. I'm going to do a homage. Matt's got me this kit in, and this is what Buster was. So I'm going to redo Buster later on in the year. So again, we've got a couple of those in. So if you want to bid on one, you can have a bid on that one as well. And then these down in here, this is the review ones that are with me. And then obviously if you want to see those reviews, they are up there right now. Again, so some nice stuff down in there. But remember, right, if you scroll to the top, at the top here, there's full terms and conditions about it, about standard box sizes and things like that, being £4.80 shipping, and about the bidding process and stuff like that. It is pinned to the top of the live show area. Obviously it will make its way out onto the forum on Monday as well. Sorry, out to the main main site on Fundy, but if you want to see that, it is in the actual live shows and blogs area, and it's pinned at the beginning right there. So if you want to see any of those, click on that. I'll pop a link down below as we go through it as well. So you say really busy. Now, because Matt's making his way down here this evening to me, obviously the PM store is going to be closed all weekend and Monday, and he'll be back at work on Tuesday. All right, so from that point of view, if you've got any orders going in with PM models and things like that, they're actually going to be closed for 3 days. So obviously Saturday, Sunday and Monday, and then back at it on actual Tuesday for your orders and stuff like that as well. So if you're wondering where no one's answering your emails and stuff, give them a bit of time, because obviously they'll be travelling halfway across the country, back and forth and things like that to make our way through. And that is about it for this week. A really, really good week this week. Pushed on very heavily, especially on the Hornet, because it did, I won't say the word because I'll get told off again, but it did throw me a little bit of a curveball with the undercarriage collapsing and having to rebuild it, and then obviously working out how we're going to jack this thing up and all the rest of it. But anyway, she is done. These two will be both finished next week, so that'll be nice, and we've got new projects coming through and a few other things. As I said before, we have got some changes coming up to Flory models and the way we do our videos and when they are and things like that and how long for, but obviously full details of that will be coming up with you next week. But as of this month now, April onwards, we're just making a few changes just to tweak some things as well to make it a little bit easier for you guys to follow us on there. As always on a Friday, I'm going to leave you with your great work from the gallery section from the members. So until Monday, everybody, happy modelling. Take care.